Good morning, everyone. A Mississippi hospital group is taking on a national prescription drug issue. North Mississippi Health Services has partnered with a Maryland-based company that's transforming the way medicines are made. Allie Martin tells us what this all means for patients in Northeast Mississippi.
In recent years, local hospitals have been at the mercy of supply chain issues, which has led to shortages for some drugs.
Those medicines often have been moved offshore for production to China, to India, and other places. So America no longer has the capability. So we're bringing that capability back.
Retired Rear Admiral James Hancock is CEO of On Demand Pharmaceuticals. North Mississippi Health Services, the parent company of North Mississippi Medical Center, has partnered with ODP to ensure that patients have an adequate supply of essential medicines. NMMC will be beta testing ODP's Shortage Response on-demand platform. Medications that are in high demand but short supply can be made on demand and on site in this mobile lab.
It's a really effective sterilization cycle.
NMHS President Shane Spees says the partnership could be a game changer for the healthcare industry.
I think what's so amazing about it is they've taken a very complex process and have simplified it and made it very less costly and much less labor intensive. We'll end up in a position where we can deliver a specific medication that's needed for a specific patient on the spot with this capability.
The partnership with NMHS is the first between On-Demand Pharmaceuticals and a hospital system in the nation. This mobile lab should be producing needed medicine by mid-December. Telling your story in Tupelo, Allie Martin, WCBI News.
ODP plans to expand its mobile medicine labs across the country. If your eyes are itchy or nose is runny, ragweed and mold spores may be the culprits. Mandy Gaither has some tips to tackle autumn allergies.
It's that time of year again. The air is crisp, the leaves will fall, and autumn allergies may act up.
Things like stuffy nose, drippy nose, sneezing, itching of the nose, or maybe itching, redness of the eyes.
Allergist Matthew Rank with Mayo Clinic says allergens floating in fall air can also trigger asthma symptoms, but there are ways to gain control. Rank says to first try saline nasal sprays or rinses, over-the-counter non-sedating antihistamines, and nasal spray medications.
Each of those medicines works a little bit differently as far as how fast they work and how well they work. And some of them, particularly the nasal steroid sprays, it's a really good idea to think about 2 to 4 weeks ahead of when your allergy season typically is and getting it started.
If symptoms can't be controlled, Rank says it's time to see an allergy specialist who can work on other treatment options to help desensitize you to the allergens or find out what's causing the problem.
People that lose their sense of smell. This can happen from somebody who has severe environmental allergy, but that could be a sign that something else is going on.
Rank says the National Allergy Bureau website can also help.
And you can pick a counting station where they actually count the pollens close to where you live, and you can get some idea what's in the air currently.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Dr. Rank says anyone having asthma attacks leading to emergency room or hospital visits or requiring the use of a lot of rescue treatments should go see their allergy specialist too. The vocal anti-vax movement in the United States doesn't just stop with people. A new study finds many dog owners are skeptical of having their pet vaccinated, even though that puts the animal and her humans at risk. Dania Bancas has details.
Sin Jin Chun is confident his dog Kobe is safe as he plays with other pets on this Southern California beach. That's because Kobe's had his shots.
I understand the public hesitancy around vaccines in general, but as far as dogs go, I think it's pretty necessary. Dogs are just a lot dirtier than we are, and they can pick up a lot of different things, and if they're spreading those things around, it's not good.
A study from Boston University School of Public Health found Kobe may be in the minority. 53% of dog owners have some hesitancy toward canine vaccines, seeing them as unsafe, ineffective, or unnecessary.
My co-authors and I were stunned by how prevalent this phenomenon is.
Dr. Matt Mata says an unvaccinated pet is a danger not just to other animals, but also to the humans around them.
If there are more unvaccinated dogs out there, the risk of disease transmission grows.
Almost all states require rabies vaccinations, and there are several other shots that veterinarians recommend for dogs.
Obviously you get rabies, if you don't get treated right away or whatever, you die. Parvo and distemper for sure can be fatal.
The study also found vaccine misinformation has been projected onto pets as well.
One of the things that we documented in our study is that nearly 2/5 of dog owners, I should say, believe that vaccines, routine vaccines administered to dogs, can cause them to develop autism, which is a fundamentally human diagnosis, not something that we observe in canine populations.
There is no evidence vaccines cause autism in humans or animals. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
According to the American Pet Product Association, about 65 million households in the United States own at least one dog. All right, coming up, a class on Taylor Swift. Professors and students are taking a look at her lyrics ahead on Mid-Morning. Welcome back. It's an opportunity for girls to learn about aviation and the different careers in the industry. At the Denver airport, United Airlines hosted dozens of young girls to show how their future can take wings. Dylan Thomas reports.
Movies, but it's not something usually you see in real life.
But now, something that was once left to the imagination is quite literally within reach for young girls here in Colorado.
Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelt low and tight across your lap.
We're here for Girls in Aviation Day.
And what better way to show these young girls their possibilities than by letting them meet living examples?
It's a good test. And they got to talk to us about how we got here in the first place.
Adriana Bendick Rodriguez is the youngest captain in United history. Her career launched when she was just 15 with her stepdad.
It was a Christmas present. We took off and I decided that this is what I wanted to do. I hope that they see me as an example. I hope they see my story and know that they can get here.
We're empowering them to follow their dreams, and hopefully they follow their dreams into aviation.
Jonna McGrath is the new VP of the United Denver Hub.
So I started loading bags on the ramp, and I never dreamed about being in aviation. I was asked by someone that was in aviation at a very young age, would you be interested? And it got in my blood.
Which is what might have happened to these young girls as well.
Maybe I could be a pilot, see how it is, or flight attendant. I think I would want to be an engineer because I think it looks really cool.
After meeting living examples of success,
it's really nice to see it because a lot of times in media you hear about how women aren't in the roles enough. Women aren't in the roles, period. And so seeing that although it is true that there aren't enough women in the roles, it's nice to see that it's not true that there aren't any.
From the youngest female captain in United history to the first female VP of this hub, United's team right here in Denver serves as a great example to these young girls as to the possibilities they have within this industry. At Denver International Airport, I'm Dylan Thomas.
Taylor Swift's music is sweeping the globe from the stage to the silver screen, and now it's entering its classroom era with students taking inspiration from her literary lyrics. Tina Krause has that story from London.
Circulate some paper here. There is a big marker pen.
Professor Ellie McCausland loves teaching literature, especially since her newest class is tailored to her liking.
I'm a long-standing Swiftie. I've been a fan of hers for a long time.
Taylor! The pop star's flair for looping literature into her lyrics inspired McCausland's blog called Swifterature, which compares references and themes in Swift's songwriting to literary greats.
Especially when she released Folklore and Evermore, I started thinking about the connections between her work and literature.
And that led her to launch a Swift course in comparisons between famous historical writers and the 33-year-old singer.
I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, and I'm in my master year of English literature.
Students at Ghent University in Belgium study the star's lyrics and debate whether she's a literary genius.
People look down on Taylor Swift, but I just love the fact that you look at like these old historical works through the lens of how does it influence the now.
Taylor Swift is one of our most popular artists of our modern day, and this way it might be easier for people to learn to relate to literature more.
If I was inspired to write it after reading...
Professor McCausland hopes the modern move sparks a love story with literature over the centuries. Tina Krause, CBS News.
And some colleges here in the U.S., from New York to Arizona, are also offering a Taylor-inspired literature course. Rice University in Houston is offering one called Miss Americana, The Evolution and Lyrics of Taylor Swift. That class is full, and there's a waiting list to get into it. All right, a major win for Hollywood writers this week. The Writers Guild of America approved its contract agreement with the organization representing major studios, ending at least part of Hollywood's summer of strikes. Jared Hill is in New York now with the details on the deal.
After nearly 5 months, Hollywood writers can once again pick up the pen. The strike declared over Tuesday night after board members for the Writers Guild of America approved a contract agreement with the studios.
We got so much of what we wanted, like it's overwhelming.
The 3-year deal includes better upfront pay and an agreement on residual compensation based on the popularity of a streaming show. On artificial intelligence, AI can't write or rewrite scripts, nor can it create source material. They're language for novels or video games that writers adapt into scripts. Another win for the Guild, required staff minimums.
The idea that there would be some protection to make sure that writing staffs continue to be robust, that there's some sort of guidelines to protect some of these jobs. That's a big win for the Writers Guild.
Late-night talk shows, the first to go dark, could be the first to return. Meanwhile, actors who've swapped the screen for the sidewalk continue to search for their own Hollywood ending.
Knowing that at least one of us has gotten a good deal gives a lot of hope that we will also get a good deal as well.
The writers still have to vote to ratify the contract early next month, but they can work during that process. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
All right, it was part of a change for American women. MS Magazine at 50 years old ahead on Mid-Morning. All right, we're back. Back when magazines were featuring recipes and home features or fashion and advice, a group of women started something new. It's been 50 years since the Miss Magazine was first published. It helped push feminism into the mainstream. Rita Braver talks with Gloria Steinem about the origin of the magazine and with executive editor Catherine Spiller, who has spent 2.5 years compiling a new anthology, 50 Years of Miss.
What do we want? Equality! When do we want it? Now!
As the women's liberation movement was picking up steam more than half a century ago, feminism, the idea of equality for women, was a new and controversial idea. Why do you think that word seemed to threaten people, the word feminism?
2 reasons. 1, because they didn't understand it, and 2, because they did understand it.
Now 89, Gloria Steinem was a 30-something columnist for New York Magazine when she joined with a group of other journalists to create a new magazine aiming to push feminism into the mainstream. Even the title, Ms., a newly emerging designation for those who didn't want to be bound by Mrs. for a married woman or Miss for a single woman, was an issue. As I understand it, even the New York Times wouldn't call you Ms. Gloria Steinem.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you know that. It was so annoying because for years and years I was Miss Steinem of Ms. Magazine.
Ms. would not offer household hints or fashion tips like traditional women's magazines.
We wanted to be able to write about trying to make an equal marriage or to write about abortion. We didn't want to just focus on women's outsides, but also our insides.
In fact, Steinem says she became an activist as well as a journalist while covering an abortion hearing.
And suddenly I realized, wait a minute, I had an abortion when I was in London, and why is this common experience not been spoken about? So in the very first issue of Ms., we had a massive petition signed by, all kinds of people saying, I have had an abortion.
50 prominent women signed it.
I have had an abortion and I demand that it become safe and legal. And of course, we're still fighting this battle in some states.
Amid fears about how Ms. would be received, Steinem's boss, legendary New York publisher Clay Felker, volunteered to publish a sample issue within the pages of his magazine. Steinem and the Ms. team hit the publicity circuit.
And when I got to California, somebody called the radio show I was on and said, you know, we can't find it. And I called Clay Felker in a panic, and I said, it didn't get here. And it turned out it had sold out. That was a moment of recognition that, you know, it had an audience.
An audience that's lasted more than 50 years.
This is from the early 70s, spring.
Catherine Spiller, executive editor of Ms., spent 2.5 years compiling an anthology out this coming week. They all want to make you just dive in,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's immodestly subtitled The Pathfinding Magazine That Ignited a Revolution.
It started trends, and it amplified the trends. A lot of articles about men and marriage and relationships and child rearing and politics and violence against women. And you can trace...
That keep coming back.
Keep coming back. And it shows the endurance of this movement, but also the endurance of our opponents.
Published monthly, there were lots of Wonder Woman covers and stories about women's emerging political clout. One of the most popular features has been letters from readers.
Here's a great one. It's very funny. My husband says I used to be a bitch once a month, but since I subscribed to Ms., now I'm a bitch twice a month.
The letters often end with the word click, inspired by one of the earliest articles by Ms. co-founder Jane O'Reilly, describing the moment a woman realizes she's experiencing sexism. It's really become part of the vernacular even today.
It's an automatic connection to other women who are suffering the same injustices.
Long before the Me Too movement, Ms. was writing about sexual harassment on the job.
The editors at the time had to use a doll.
Because it would have been too outrageous, over the top to have a real woman there.
Exactly. And as it was, a lot of newsstands pulled this off, refusing to sell the issue. But it absolutely represented what way too many women in the workplace experienced then and now.
And selling advertising for a women's magazine that covered these issues became a challenge. You describe a lunch with the head of a major cosmetics company in which he told you that women who read Ms. didn't buy blush or makeup?
Right. Took me to lunch to tell me that, yes.
Right. Car manufacturers didn't want to advertise because they didn't think women bought cars?
And that it would devalue a car to see a woman driving it. I mean, they told me that in Detroit. I'm not making it up.
In 2002, Ms. started being published by the nonprofit Feminist Majority Foundation. Today, Ms. is a quarterly and still inspiring young women, according to Ileana McDonald, who works for the foundation. So to the question that some people have, which is, hey, is this 50-plus magazine still relevant? What's your answer?
Absolutely. It's relevant now for the same reason it was relevant back in the 70s, because it's providing a platform. It's encouraging discourse that still needs to be encouraged. It has been 50 years, but we still have a lot of work to do.
All of us must stand up together and say no more.
Ms. co-founder Gloria Steinem couldn't agree more. Are you still optimistic about the push for equality?
Yes, we have to imagine something before it becomes reality. So yes, I am a hopeaholic.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, you may be a fisherman casting a line from the pool bank or a boat in a local lake or river, but in Minnesota, fly fishing has become increasingly popular. John Lauritsen shows us why one county has become a destination for anglers across the country.
It's the beauty of the area, the rolling hills, the farmers' fields, the Root River.
Fillmore County is one of those places that makes you feel like you're home no matter where you're from. There are plenty of sights, sounds, and business. But while most people drive to work, Tim Carver walks. Instead of wearing a suit and carrying a laptop, he wears waders and carries a fishing pole. And his office just happens to be the Root River.
Come on, little buddies. There we go. Come on, baby.
Tim is the head guide for Driftless Fly Fishing Company in Preston. The word driftless has a lot to do with why anglers near and far come to this small town. Thousands of years ago, glaciers that were drifting across the continent essentially stopped here.
We joke because a lot of people make fun of us and say that Minnesota and Iowa is really flat, but that's because they don't go to this part of the country where we run into those 150, 200-foot beautiful limestone bluffs that run along the rivers down here.
The bluffs and mineral deposits have created a fly fishing paradise for brook trout, brown trout, and rainbow trout. The fly is what Tim uses for bait. They're made to look like mayflies and other insects that trout can't resist.
You got to be a bug expert a little bit.
A little bit. We're using the weight and the line to get the rod to bend and load, and that's what sends the fly and propels the fly forward and back.
The cast is all on the wrist.
It's like a pitcher trying to throw into a strike zone.
There are advantages and disadvantages to fly fishing in crystal clear water.
Come on, fishies.
You can see the fish.
There you go, perfect, perfect.
But they can also see you.
They're the most visually developed fish on the planet. They have 3 times as many rods and cones in their eyes as we do.
Accuracy does matter.
Look out, Tim.
Otherwise, you're bound to catch firewood.
Look at that.
Not fish.
Beautiful. I think it's an ash. Ash or part of a maple.
There we go.
Tim makes it look easy.
Get out of the weeds, buddy.
And because this part of the river rarely freezes over,
come here, buddy.
He'll be out here in January, standing literally in the middle of nature. Not a bad way to spend a workday.
Could do this for hours, man. It never gets old. It's like a little victory when you catch that fish that flipped you the fin 6, 7 times in a row. You lost. I'll get another one.
In Fillmore County, John Lordson, WCCO News.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back to wrap it up. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time.